Hello everybody, welcome back to Sports Gaming Rosters. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, liking this video, all that good stuff so I can keep doing the things that I do. Thank you so much. So today we're going to dive into the 2024 NBA Draft. The combine's over, the draft order is mostly set other than a couple of coin flips to determine a couple of spots. So this is a good time to talk mock draft. Let's get right into it. So we all know this isn't the best draft to have the #1 pick. There's not a Victor Wembanyama or a Cooper Flagg or a Zion Williamson. But the Hawks still went from a play-in team to the top spot, so that's good luck no matter who's available. I'm going to go with Alex Sarr here. He's probably the safest bet to be #1. He's got length and defense and can rebound. That's valuable no matter what team you are and what roster setup you have. Definitely needs to work on his offense. He may never be more than a 10-point per game scorer, which isn't very exciting for the top overall pick, but you could get a poor man's Evan Mobley here. So versatile defender, a good shot blocker, can run the floor, can score in transition, and he does have the ability to hit jump shots, but he's going to have to work it. The bust potential's there with every player in this draft, but I like Sarr the most to make an impact. If you had to pinpoint a biggest need for the Wizards roster, it's probably point guard or center. But this is a team that is in the very early stages of a complete teardown and rebuild, so I think best player available would be the way to go here. The early consensus seems to be that the two Frenchmen, Alex Sarr and Zachary Risacher, are the top two prospects in this class right now, so I think Washington will draft whoever the Hawks don't. So Risacher has the potential to be a good shooter, a solid defender, a nice wing player, so the 3-and-D type that everybody seems to want. He struggled a lot during the season for his European club, but the potential, and you're going to hear that word potential a lot because these guys are all extremely raw prospects. The potential for a player with length who can handle the ball and shoot the rock is there, and that's good enough for a team like the Wizards who really don't have many go-to scorers right now. Yeah, I know. There has not been a senior drafted in the top 5 of the NBA draft since Sheldon Williams in 2006. So this pick is going to need a little explanation. First of all, the Rockets are a playoff hopeful who stole even more draft picks from the hapless Nets who seem to give away their picks like their candy on Halloween. So they moved up into the top 3 even though they finished with a 500 record. All these guys are major projects who might take 2 or 3 years to get going. So if Houston does not trade this pick, which I think they're going to do, why not take Dalton Knecht in the top 3? I mean, he's the most ready to play, a good shooter, a solid athlete. Yeah, he's 23 years old, and drafting a 23-year-old 5-year senior in the top 3 is going to really buck a lot of trends, and it's really hard to wrap your head around something like that, but I could see it happening. I mean, if they want to pick a guy who's going to produce right away, he's the best bet. Do I think it's going to happen? Probably not, but you either take him and get a solid 6th man right away, or you take somebody like Rob Dillingham to rot away on the bench behind a solid starter. So I'm going out on a limb with this pick, and it probably won't happen, but I could definitely see something like this shaking up the draft. The Spurs desperately need a point guard running mate for Victor Wembanyama, and fortunately for them, they have 2 picks in the top 10, and there's quite a few decent point guard prospects available. I went with Reed Sheppard because of his combination of defensive potential, shooting, and steadiness. I think he'd be a very good fit with Wembanyama. He had good size at the combine and is definitely a very good shooter, so say what you want about his ability to be a full-time point guard. There's question marks, but there's question marks with every player in this class, so I like his shooting. And I think he can be a decent starter or a top-notch backup and would be a good fit on this Spurs roster who really don't have many lead guards. Most mock drafts are dismissing any type of guard prospects for the Pistons, which I think is crazy. For a team coming off of a 14-win season, you can't draft for need. unless it's center because Jalen Duren really looks like the future at the position. Detroit needs talent everywhere. These picks mostly have not panned out. There's talent on the roster, but not nearly enough to compete. So to dismiss any prospect would be silly at this point. Rob Dillingham definitely has his deficiencies. He weighed a measly 164 pounds at the combine, which is terrifyingly thin for a 6'3" player, or anybody really. That might be the thinnest, skinniest player in the NBA off the top of my head. I don't know if anybody weighs less at his height, but he's a good scorer. Best case scenario, he could be a Colin Sexton type. And let's not forget that he's represented by Clutch, who often gets their clients what they want. So Detroit has some guards on the roster, but they won 14 games. You can't dismiss anybody. And right now, I think Dillingham is the best prospect available for them. I think it would be kind of crazy to take someone like Buzelis or Ron Holland over them. I don't think they're nearly the same type of prospect. So best player available right here. In a perfect world, the Hornets would be set at center and point guard with Mark Williams and LaMelo Ball respectively. But if a player never plays, then what good is he really? Williams especially only played 19 games in his second season and only 62 so far throughout 2 seasons. So you're going to be bad if you have to rely on players that just can never stay on the court. So Donovan Clingan could be drafted here as a replacement for Williams. Insurance, whatever you want to call it. Charlotte is just not good enough to be able to withstand their second and third best player missing so many games. Clingan is huge, 7 foot, 282 pounds. He was measured at the combine. Probably the best defender in this class, a rock, a good rebounder, a very good shot blocker, a good post scorer with the potential to shoot it 15 feet or so. Not the best prospect and usually not a guy who would be selected in the top 10, but this class is different and he should be a decent starter right away with the potential to make a couple of All-Star games, and that's all you can ask for this year in this class. It is going to be a struggle to say good things about a lot of these players, but I'm going to try to be positive because what's the point of just harping on the negativity all day long? We know this is not the strongest class, but there's going to be rotation players. Matas Buzelis had trouble during his season for the Ignite, but so did everybody. That was just a mess of a situation. It was so bad that the Ignite is not a thing anymore. So in putting a positive spin on things, Buzelis has good height, has the potential to be a good shooter, and is a good shot blocker. He measured at 6'10", but only 197 pounds, so he's a skinny, lanky guy. But once he gets into an NBA program, he should bulk up. Fortunately, he doesn't need the ball in his hands to be a difference maker on the court, especially Portland, who has so many ball-dominant guards on the team. He could be somewhat of a poor man's Jeremy Grant type. Not the same player, but he could block some shots and hit some wide-open three-pointers, and has the potential to fill the small forward role for the Portland Trailblazers. So I have the Spurs going point guard with both of their top 10 selections. But it's not that big of a deal because Nikola Topic and Reed Sheppard are completely different types of players. I think they could coexist very well if they both ended up being starters in the backcourt. Unlike Sheppard, Topic is more of a facilitator at point guard, not a tremendous athlete or a great shooter, but he has good size and very good court vision. The reason he's still available at 8 is he dealt with a ton of injuries during the past season, including an injury suffered recently that will probably sideline him through the draft. So teams are going to have to be comfortable with his medicals going forward if they think it's going to be a recurring issue. But at 8 and with another pick in the top 10 that they've already used on Sheppard, I think this could be a good landing spot for Topic. He could be a pretty exciting facilitator, highlight reel passer, throwing it to Wembanyama and company. French players are all the rage in the NBA draft right now, and Tidjane Salaün finished the season well enough to work his way back into the lottery. He had a good playoff run for his European club, showing stretch 4 versatility, good shooting, solid floor runner. The Memphis Grizzlies plan to be back into contention next year with a healthy Ja Morant. They're probably going to move Jaren Jackson to center full-time, opening up a spot at power forward that Salaün may be able to fill one day. He's still only 18 years old, so it'll definitely be a work in progress, but the talent is strong. Much to the chagrin of Danny Ainge, Utah refuses to flat out tank. So he's picking 10, which he would much rather be picking at 2 or 3 right now. Stephon Castle, champion, great size, a good ball handler and defender. His lack of shooting is the reason he's still available here. His offensive game is pretty tough right now. It's a definite work in progress. Plus, he fancies himself a point guard and is refusing to work out for some teams, which always rubs me the wrong way. But at 10, great value. Utah doesn't really have a whole lot in the backcourt. Keontae George is okay. So I think Castle could get some run. Like almost every Ignite prospect since its inception, Ron Holland struggled during his 1 year playing in the G League. But the positives, he showed a good ability to score, racked up some steals, and most importantly, was very competitive. Tried hard and worked his tail off every game. That kind of stuff endears itself to scouts and coaches, even if he's not a great shooter, and even if he's a bit of a tweener, power forward, small forward, not really sure where to play him. But with pick 11, and with the Bulls really needing some young talent on the roster, this is a pretty solid selection here. The entire college basketball season, I really wanted to like Cody Williams. I kept putting him in my top 5, just waiting for that one moment where he would actually explode as a prospect, and it just never happened. Nagging injuries, a lack of separation, and a real inability to make a difference on the court, and I don't see him as a top 5 pick anymore. Then the combine rolled around and he measured at 6'6", 178 pounds, which is absolutely minuscule for a draft prospect. Still, the talent's there to be a slashing scorer in theory, and the Thunder are usually pretty good at developing guys. And I'm not trying to be cute, but his brother, Jalen Williams, does play on the team. Still, if the Thunder are looking for theoretical upside, Williams would be a good pick, but there is a very high chance that he never amounts to anything in the NBA. Sacramento has a pretty good starting backcourt with De'Aaron Fox and Kevin Huerter, but Malik Monk is a free agent and they could lose him. He was such a valuable piece for them, and their bench is pretty weak, especially in the backcourt. I really like Devin Carter as one of the upperclassmen who can come in and make an impact right away. He could be an all-NBA rookie first-team contributor. He had a really good combine, showed the ability to play both guard positions, handle the ball, shoot, play solid defense, and I think he can make a solid 6th or 7th man right away for the Kings. Portland should go big here, as other than DeAndre Ayton and Jeremy Grant, there's not a lot of size on this roster, and both of those guys are always going to be trade candidates anyway. Don't be surprised if Zach Edey is the pick here, but I'm going to go with Kyle Filipowski. With Matas Buzelis, Filipowski will give them even more offense. Neither of those guys are tremendous defenders. Filipowski especially, he's pretty much all offense, but is a really good stretch big who could give the team 15 points a game off the bench or eventually as a starter, taking over for Ayton.
You